Oh
by
my
different
God,
candidates.
dude.
You can see that, they've lied time and time again about the things that they say they support. Um,
Okay.
and even then,
Where's
some of the things
Molina
that they
at?
do say they support from the get-go, such as wars with Taiwan or wars with China over Taiwan. We're supporting public options that will only further decimate the healthcare industry, the healthcare plan in this country to guarantee universal healthcare to all people. It's only going to hurt more Americans, and that's what they do.
Okay, Destiny, your intro statement.
Voting for third parties is a waste of time. None of them have a shot at making it anywhere. The only thing that's good for third parties is getting Twitter clout or having fun debates, I guess, on Twitch or YouTube. If you truly want to support things like a more robust economy that supports workers at the bottom, healthcare that works for everybody and not just people that can afford the best private insurance, relatively less hawkish foreign policy, people that support things around medical science. So, for instance, stuff related to vaccines or the coronavirus. If you want to support people's right to vote, if you want to support the ability for unions to exist, and if you want to support a party that believes in climate change, I think that it's probably more important to support the Democratic Party than to throw away your vote on some meme third party that doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of holding any effective office. I think that if third parties really wanted to build real power in this country, they would spend more time actually winning local elections to build real support for their movement instead of just doing this like Hail Mary for the presidency every year where they can raise some money, have absolutely no effective change, and then write a bunch of books later on about the failures of their parties and all the excuses they make for it. And yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today, I guess.
Love my Steve.
Okay, it is now open dialogue. You two are free to go back and forth. You may begin.
Well, I think destiny begins from the presupposition that the Democrats were the only ones who support this, and that no one else actually has a chance. I'm curious to know why Destiny thinks he knows a third party is actually not possible. Given the history of the United States, the Republicans and Democrats haven't always existed, and there's actually a precedent in monumental historical shifts, political shifts within the United States. Historical shifts within the United States. Third parties and alternative parties to the status quo do happen in the history of the United States. Shifts in the even the political alignment of parties happen in these kinds of decisive historical moments. And I think you would really have to be a complete, either a liar or someone who's burying their head under the sand to deny the fact that right now in this country we are facing a decisive historical transformation, a political realignment, and one such moment that precisely makes an alternative third party possible. Now, you can, deny and dismiss that all you want, but to go out of your way to say that a third party actually isn't possible and that the only choice we have is between the Republicans and the Democrats, I think that's an unfounded assumption.
So typically, if political parties are going to build their power, it's not going to be a Hail Mary winning of the presidential election. And then all of a sudden, this third political party is more popular. If there was a third party that was legitimately gaining steam, then, maybe there might be talk of supporting them in the future. But I was here when people thought libertarians could win against Obama, when people supported Ron Paul, back with Bush and the Green Party, people were talking. There was Ross Perot. Against Trump, you've seen third party, Gary Johnson, there have been all these third party candidates that have kind of sprung up, and they can get 1% of the vote or 2% of the vote. But ultimately, they're ineffective. You can see the writing on the wall. You're never going to have a mysterious, explosive, oh my God, out of nowhere, this third party candidate wins. I think that if third parties want to build real power, they should probably focus doing it on the city or at least state level before they just try to make these big runs for the presidency when most people in the United States consider those third parties to be a joke.
Okay, well, there's two things, actually. The first argument I'd like to point out is that, historically speaking, the emergence of the Republican Party was precise. The Republican Party didn't emerge because, they were slowly winning at the local level and then eventually... No, it created because there was a discernible political distinction and difference that was within the prevailing party. And it was precisely, by winning the presidency that the Republican Party was boosted into relevance and significance historically. So historically speaking, that's just not true. Third parties, or whatever you want to call them, alternative parties, have won historically on the basis of these kinds of so-called Hail Marys. But even if we discount that fact, I personally don't think people should necessarily rely on a so-called Hail Mary. I think that a party does require work at local levels. It does require dedication and energy and building foundations and infrastructure, and it requires the maturity to be able to have a big tent third party. This is the most important part, that's going to be able to overcome, the kind of petty political sectarianism that you see so common among the left, and just be able to focus on getting this third party to win. But on the other hand, if the question is about, and we're addressing this to the audience, should you vote Democrat? My view is a decisive no. And the reason why is because you should be focusing your effort on building a third party. And even if that means taking your energy and attention away from these, congressional and presidential elections, if a third party is going to start winning locally, that also implies a broader information and propaganda war that allows you to draw a line of distinction. You can't, on the one hand, campaign at a local level and say, oh, let's vote for this third party, but on the other hand, shill for the Democrats when it comes to the national level in terms of propaganda and optics. So just to be able to distinguish yourself enough sufficiently, even if you're just going to focus on local levels, you do have to make a stance when it comes to these very broad, unifying political moments where, American politics is really defined at the level of the presidential elections, whether we like that or not, just at the level of optics, information, and propaganda. So if you're going to distinguish yourself as a third party, you cannot say, oh, let's vote for Biden, or oh, let's swallow our pride and vote for the Democrats. You have to take a stance, even just as a matter of optics, in those such moments. So to whoever it may concern, right? And I don't think this is going to be like the majority of the American people right now, but those who are interested in politics, young people who do want to see changes in this country, you should focus, and this is true for influencers such as yourself, who go on stream and claim that, you're interested in seeing all these changes happen in this country. It doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. It doesn't matter what your specific ideology is or what your specific views are. You should be getting on board with a big tent, focusing on trying to build a big tent, a third party. And I find it especially ironic that Destiny says it's not possible when, if streamers like him, influencers like him, got the ball rolling, him, Vaush, Hassan, and all these streamers, I mean, that enough would like blow out of the water all of the other precedent attempts within the past, few decades to build third parties. You already have the media infrastructure to build a political alternative in this country. Like, you are yourself a form of alternative media, Destiny, whether you like it or not. You're not a form of mainstream media. So I just find
wait, do I get a chance to respond to things, or holy shit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, you can barge in.
Okay, I'm trying not to just talk over. So I mean, like, if we want to talk about like political parties from 200 years ago, we can. I mean, if you've got a political party that's ready to absolutely collapse in the United States, that doesn't enjoy like a massive amount of popularity, which the Democratic and the Republican Party do, I mean, we can do that. But I mean, it took the Whig Party collapsing, right, in like the fucking 1800s in order for the Republican Party to like grow from the ashes of that. To try to say that like the situation is the same today, I know that a lot of people talk like, oh my God, like the parties are collapsing. They're not. They both enjoy like a pretty tremendous amount of support right now. I just don't see either of them collapsing right now. Now, maybe that'll change in a few years. Maybe the party of Trump, maybe we'll come out and support Trump as a third party candidate. Who knows? I mean, anything is possible, I guess. It could be. The progressive or left-wing movement in the Democratic Party definitely isn't healthy or large enough to support somebody. But maybe in the Republican Party, maybe we'll see somebody grow out as a result of that. But again, like, these political realignments happened like over 150 years ago, right? The Democratic and Republican Party are like 200 years old. I think that any time you're trying to say this is possible and you have to reach back like as a millennia, 100 years, like 200 years to try to point to where this has happened before, I think your argument is already starting off on an incredibly rocky foot. Like, politics change, the power of the federal government changes, the way that we consume media changes, the way that these parties exist. 2 centuries. The way that these parties exist has changed, like, just so much that I'm not willing to go back 200 years ago and say, well, it worked then, so it should work now. In terms of like, if you vote on a third party, does that mean that like you should vote third party even if that means losing elections in the meantime? I don't like that idea, because I think that is a very privileged position to have. There are a lot of people that are hurting right now in the United States that probably don't want to gamble the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years of their life on whatever gambit you have for your fantasy third party that's going to come up and rise up and destroy the United States, or not destroy the United States, but destroy the U.S. like political parties that exist right now. I think that's a pretty selfish thing to demand of people that are hurting right now and need help right now. So, and then also in terms of like, you can't vote third party locally and then presidentially vote different. You absolutely can do that. Local politics are an incredibly diverse landscape of different types of candidates that believe in all sorts of different things. There's even more variety